the world during the world wars. So we know that in the 20th century, in the first half of the 20th century, when you observe, there was a two world wars. One is World War One and the second one is World War Two. So in this chapter, we shall discuss about the history of the world in the world wars time, and mainly the causes and the consequences of the world wars, and the creation of institution like the formation of a UNO, which is the international organization which was formed in 1945, and its main aim is to maintain the peace as well as to work for the development of the world. So these things we are going to discuss in this chapter. The 20th century. Eric Hobsbawm, the historian, called the 20th century as the age of extremes. Now, we shall see why he was called as the age of extremes. If you observe the 20th century, so the things which happened was in extreme levels. If you observe the development also in extreme level, and if you observe the destruction also extreme level. And when you come to the ideology of fascism, has given the ideas to unquestioned power to the people and hatred for other people and need for democracy also developed. The one side fascism was developing and another side the democracy was growing, and average life of expectancy rate also increased due to the discoveries of science, especially in the field of medicine. So due to the medicine, the average life expectancy rate also increased, and literacy rate also high, and the people had access to better education, and people got the awareness to get the education, and new art forms like especially movies were introduced. And if you observe the science also developed in a high level, and the discoveries of life and atom, and if you observe some of the countries, and more than 100 countries got the independence. Some experiments were made in the 20th century. If you observe, some of the countries were followed socialist societies, and some other countries were followed the liberal democracy. And when you come to the socialist societies, they followed the equality and fraternity. In the country which were following the liberal democracy, so these people had a political liberty as well as the capitalist economy. In the beginning of 20th century, in the world, the industrially developed countries, like example in the western side, like example Britain, France, USA, Germany and Italy. So these were one side, and Asia and Africa countries were one side. And the most of the Asia and African colonies were colonized by Western countries. And these all industrially developed countries have divided into two blocks. So are two enemy groups also we can call. So one side, if you observe, the Germany, Austria and Hungary. And another side, the Britain, France and Russia. So industrially developed countries have divided into two enemy groups. So one side, the Germany, Austria and Hungary, and another side, Britain, France and Russia. And these countries, these groups were trying to dominate the world, and they wanted to occupy them as many as possible, as many as colonies for the markets and for the raw materials. And due to this occupation of the more colonies, the world wars were occurred frequently. And here in a World War One, if you observe the World War One, it was started in the 1914 and ended in the 1918. So in this war, the eastern side, the China and Japan, and the western side, USA. Almost from the east to west, almost all the countries were involved in this war. So that is the reason it is called as a world war. So it is world war, one side the Britain and their allies, and another side the Germany and their allies. But Ultimately, the Britain was won, and the Germany and their allies were defeated.